10 years ago, life was simpler. Maybe I was just a kid and unlike Simple Plan said, life wasn't a nightmare, but I honestly feel like those were just simpler times. We're at the tail end of still watching whatever was on TV because streaming hadn't consumed us yet. Everyone thought that YouTube was some weird thing only the kids are into, and gaming felt like it was a lot more streamlined, especially the community I was in, which was teenagers who wanted to play first-person shooters. At that point, Call of Duty were off the back of releasing MW3, Black Ops 2, and for the first time, maybe ever, they had a release a lot of the community didn't like with Call of Duty Ghosts. You also had Battlefield 3 and 4 coming out at that time, so those were really the only two contenders, and honestly, no one else was really stepping up to the plate. I think the closest thing we got to a new IP to rival COD on Battlefield was Titanfall, which, from memory at the time, had a lot of issues on launch that had a lot of people staying away from it. But also at this time, mobile games had already blown up. Flappy Bird had already come and gone, Geometry Dash had taken its place, at least around the people I was in school with, and there was the undying legacy of Plants vs. Zombies. Even now the mobile game is still fun to play. All the game is buying and using plants to fight off waves of zombies, but in the same way that a repetitive game like Tetris is sick, this was the same. The game became massively popular, and 5 years after the launch of the mobile game, Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare was released on console and PC. I remember at the time, this did seem so genuinely weird that it had made a shooter out of what was more or less a way to kill 5 or so minutes while waiting for a bus, but after people had started playing, it seemed like all you heard was how it was apparently really good. The first time I ever played this was going around to a friend's house and him saying to give it a go. The only mode was multiplayer, and at that time, all I was really playing was COD and Battlefield, so I was really interested to see what this would be like. And maybe after 3 matches, I'd already decided I'm going to the shops later to get myself a copy because I was amazed by how much I loved this game. The world looked so cartoony, but not in a way that it made you feel like you're playing a kid's game. It's stylized in such a way that I guess it kind of justifies plants being alive and fighting zombies in this. It also kept a very similar style from the mobile game, but also was 3D, which was something that we hadn't seen these characters in before. I never played anything like Team Fortress before, which, looking back now, is more than likely where the timelines branch off, where I either end up being who I am today, or a furry. It does seem like what the framework for Garden Warfare was, especially in a way that I was unfamiliar with, which was having to pick a class before loading into a game. There's 8 different classes you can pick, which ends up with 4 for each team, and I'll quickly go over the classes. But before I do, all the zombie footage and multiplayer games you'll see are from Garden Warfare 2, because there is no option to play solo on Garden Warfare 1, and no matter how long I waited, no one was playing the multiplayer for either one of these games. We'll start with, I guess, what you'd call the general shooter class, which is the pea shooter on the plant side and the foot soldier on the zombie side. The pea shooter has a grenade, a sentry mode, which is used with a lot of different classes, and also has a speed boost, which lets you jump and run faster for a set time. The foot soldier has a gas grenade, a rocket jump, which I just found kind of useless because it ended up just making you an easy target as you slowly floated down from wherever you jumped up to. It also has a rocket that you can charge up and shoot. I initially started here just because it was basically as close to mindlessly picking my Call of Duty multiplayer class as possible. The second is, from what I can tell, kind of supposed to be the tank, even though the health does not line up in any way. You have a Chomper, which is the Venus flytrap on the plant side, and the engineer on the zombie side. The Chomper is basically just a melee character that will one-hit you if it gets close enough. With Chomper, you're able to throw a gas grenade, leave spike traps around that stuns enemies who walk over it, and also, probably its best ability, is that it can dig underground and chase down an enemy before attacking from below. You are still able to see that it's underground, but in a multiplayer game where you need to be paying attention to so much at a time, it's easy to miss. The zombie engineer has a stun grenade, a sentry mode, and also a jackhammer, which can be used to travel around the map faster. The next two are basically just your healer classes, which is the Sunflower and the Scientist. The Sunflower and Scientist both have the ability to connect you to someone on your team and heal them as long as you're connected. That's something that I've mainly seen now just as something with Amber Heard and Elon Musk, because for whatever reason, she heard the idea of cosplaying as Mercy and thought, this'll fix it. The Sunbeam also has a laser vision it can use, which is kind of just the plant's version of a sentry mode, as well as it being able to drop a smaller sun plant, which will shoot out little sun balls of healing. The Scientist's other abilities are a forward teleport kind of thing, as well as just a grenade. The last two classes are pretty different from each other, but has one of what I think is the coolest abilities. The Cactus and the All-Star are both able to create barriers to use as cover or just to block off an entrance. The All-Star is able to shoot a little bomb guy, which will will just explode and get thrown like a grenade, as well as a rush like a football player that can deal damage with just that. The cactus though is able to plant spud mines, and my favorite ability of all is it's able to shoot out a little garlic drone, which deals about the same amount of damage as the sunflower. Mine immediately got killed when I tried to use it in the multiplayer bots game that you can see, but I honestly feel like if it was a game with regular people, you have a pretty good chance to do a bit of damage without being immediately spotted. Laid out like this, it does follow pretty closely in the footsteps of something like TF2, and for someone who had never played something like this before, I was so impressed. I don't know how they did it on their first try, but the gameplay did feel like it was at the same level as what we had seen in shooters before. There was nothing in this that felt cheap or like it was just a cash grab. This felt like a well-rounded full game that people tried to make the best it could be. It launched with a team deathmatch and a domination type of game mode, which I think really just let them make these as good as they could be, rather than trying to do too much at once. As the game got older and there were DLC and updates, a search and destroy game mode got added in, which I think is a really cool way to add a more sweaty kind of competitive play type to this game, which can help keep more players locked in. I spent hours playing this game when it came out. It kind of became my COD for a bit there. Considering that the release the year before was Ghosts and the release for 2014 was Advanced Warfare, it was really nice to have I wouldn't say like more bare bones, but a lot more basic type of multiplayer shooter to play. And it wasn't just me who liked it. It seemed like almost everyone who had a go at this game loved it. Currently it has 4.47 stars out of 5 on the PlayStation Store and a 4 and a bit stars on the Xbox Store. I think one of the main reasons people really liked this game was because, as I hinted at before, shooters in this like 2013 to 14 game period had felt like they had either lost their charm or that they were moving in a direction a lot of people didn't like. Call of Duty Ghosts and Battlefield 4 were released in 2013, and although a lot of people liked Battlefield, a lot of the COD kids didn't want to switch and were stuck playing a multiplayer that kind of just felt like they took MW3 and sucked all of the fun out of it. As well as doing what was supposed to be their zombies game mode that just, I don't get why they thought that reinventing the wheel was going to work, especially when Treyarch did such a good job of it in that same game series before. Like, it just felt like they took away all of the things that people liked about zombies, but it's fine. It's fine. I'm just hyperfixating. It's fine. What I'm trying to get at is, Garden Warfare was a breath of fresh air. It was a grounded shooter that added things like classes and a cool stylized world, which, especially at the time, hadn't been seen in a while because being in a realistic modern war setting was just the trend. Which, to COD's credit, they did release Advanced Warfare in 2014, and similarly, Titanfall also came out that year, but the general sentiment seems like it was leaning more towards the core of this game is what's fun, and everything kind of being built on top of it isn't what a lot of people in the community wanted to see. But if it was as good as I'm making it out to be, wouldn't it still be around? Yeah, it would be. And sadly, it's just not anymore. In 2016, Garden Warfare 2 came out, which I haven't played a whole lot of besides to get some footage for this video. I think at this point in time, I was too busy being depressed and trying to write music that could accurately explain how no one understands how I feel. I shit you not, an actual line that high school me wrote that we recorded and played so many times was, "Cherished all the faded dreams." I was years away from graduating when I wrote that. I sound so old when I say this, but my life hadn't even started yet. There were still so many things for me to fuck up that I didn't even know was possible yet. But since then, the player base for this game has been increasingly declining. All I can speculate is that all of the other shooters were constantly releasing new games, trying new things, even when they didn't work. Whereas Garden Warfare just kind of finished there. Sure, they released a sequel, but outside of that, the series just stopped. I genuinely think that this game series had potential to be one of the better games to come out of the 2010s, but it just feels like it's kind of this weird, obscure thing now. No one thinks of the shooter when Plants vs. Zombies is mentioned. They think of the mobile and back of airplane seats game. Even now, I can't tell if it's just rose-colored glasses, but this game genuinely caught me so off guard the first time that I played it, and really, if we're being honest, it had no right to be as good or as fun as it was. I would love to know if there are other games like this coming out now that this video made you think of, because I think that there are so many hidden gems like this that get released and very few corners of the internet obsess over, but it doesn't usually spill over into conversations about most games that are released. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a bit more of an opinion piece type of vibe and me wanting to highlight the game compared to my usual videos where I sit down in front of a camera and talk at you about a topic for a while, but if you did enjoy it, then let me know and subscribe if you want to see some more. Thank you so much for watching, have a good one, and I'll see you later.